Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It is me, Rob, and it's Sunday, November 9, and it's pretty cold. It's a pretty cold morning, so starting to feel like fall. Pretty happy about that, and because it's cold and not much to do, I figured it'd be a good opportunity to come to the shop and talk about something that I've kind of wanted to talk about, for a little while, and that is machine integration inside of Cabinet Vision, and specifically integrating a machine like this. So the machine I have behind me is an optimizing chop saw, and it's made by Holzer and Dempter. I think Dempter makes it. Could be wrong on this, but Holzer is who we bought it from, and it is basically an optimizing chop saw for your hardwoods, like your stiles and rails and door panels and door stiles and rails. And in a nutshell, it will try to optimize the best cuts, tell you what you need, and you just put them in there, and it cuts them for you, and it's got a list in the computer, and it keeps track of it for you, and it's pretty handy. But it was a different integration process than my on-through routers, which uses something like a G-code, which a lot of people are familiar with. A lot of you guys are probably familiar with it. But I felt like this was a different enough process that I wanted to talk about it, and I want to go over basically what you need to integrate it, some of the things that you're going to encounter that you're going to have to either pay for or have, or just how I got it running, because it was a trick in the beginning. It took me a little bit to get there, but now that we've got there, I'm very happy with this machine. And so I'm going to go over that with you, and hopefully this helps you guys with your decision making, or just just general increasing your knowledge on different types of machine that are out there. So anyway, if that sounds like something that you want to see, stick around and I will get into it. So like I said in the intro, this is an optimizing chop saw. Now on its own, as a self-contained unit, it has its own computer program, and you can kind of see the screen here, and I apologize for the sharp angle. I've got a big rack bolted to the floor right here, so I'm not able to look at it straight on, but I'll cut to some video while I'm talking. But this has it's a self-contained computer program in there that allows you to input information, and you can use the saw that way as a standalone unit. However, what makes this saw useful, in my opinion, even though that it can be used on its own with the computer program there, it's the ability to integrate it in with Cabinet Vision. So in order to accomplish that, there are a few steps in between getting it from Cabinet Vision into this saw. And before we cut to my office computer, where I'm going to kind of go over what are all the components to make this happen, I do want to kind of go over how I have this saw hooked up. And so this saw, there's a computer underneath, and I have got a LAN cable that is running all the way down the length of my shop to my router, and it's connecting to my computer. So that is the first thing that I had to do. I had to set up the saw, get it running, and then I had to connect a cord and an Ethernet cable down to my computer. And the reason that I have to do that is because there is an intermediate software that needs to run in between Cabinet Vision and the machine, and it's what basically gets everything ready from Cabinet Vision, so that way it can spit it out to the saw. Similar in a way, kind of how a post processor works for the on-road routers. It's not entirely the same, but it's the same concept. It's basically the middleman that goes in between. So with that explanation out of the way, let's jump up to the computer, and we're going to take a look at what it takes to kind of get something like this going, like if you are interested in going to this direction. All right, so here we are at my computer, and before I go into the process of what all you're going to need to get something like this running, Let's kind of take a look at what it is that we're trying to accomplish, in the first place. So right up here, I have kind of put an order here. This represents cabinet vision. This is going to represent the program in between cabinet vision, and then this is, the this actually, let's put this right here. So these going to go hand in hand. And then it's going to, then we're going to go into this program to reach the chop saw. So basically, if we take this Unicut file, there's nothing in it. So before we go any further, I want to get something in it, show you guys what it is that we're trying to do. So inside of Cabinet Vision, we're going to just kind of close this out. We're going to go to the main screen. So this is, I think I'm in version 2024 for this one, but it does not matter what version you're in. As long as you're integrated, it really doesn't matter. So I'm going to create a new job. And let's call this B file test. I'm just going to hit OK. And the only important thing on that is to make sure, in my case, it is a face frame job versus like frameless, because I want to actually generate face frame material so I have something to send out. So let's just grab, I'm just going to throw just a couple base cabinets in here. And then I am going to go, so one thing to note, at least in my process, if you have a bunch of jobs that you've been working on, and then you buy this machine and then you integrate it in, and so you've had old existing jobs and then you've got this new machine that's integrated in, a lot of times on old jobs you're going to have to update everything to get it to show up as face frames, to get the face frames to show up. So like if we go to screen to machine, and because I'm in 2024, it's going to take a minute to load up. Yeah, 2025 fixed that, but for some reason, whatever, I'm using 2024 here. But once you load in, and if you don't see any of the face frame materials there's two things you've got to do. The very first thing you need to do is go into your material library and make sure that you've got them where they will send out to screen to machine. So you got to get them activated. And then if they are activated, where they are sending out to screen to machine, if you pull up an old job and it pulls up without any of the styles and rails and all that, then you need to go and actually update your job. So this is what you're wanting to see. Bottom, rail, right style, all this stuff. So really quickly, we're just going to filter parts. And I'm just going to get everything that I know I would send out to this machine. So like my bottom rail, left rail, mid rail, top rail, all that. I'm going to hit OK. It's going to select all this stuff. And then over here, this is all part of the integration process. So I've got machine, I've got the chop saw, Unicut chop saw set up. So I'm going to hit output to CNC operations. And we're not going to talk about any of that yet. We're just going to spit out this file. I'm going to go to NC code and label, and I have my output folder here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put test, and I'll show you how to set up that link too. If and it kind of goes the same for any machine, but like where to set that up. So let's go to test. We're going to hit run. It ran. I'm going to hit close. If you're used to screen to machine, like with CNC router parts, you're not going to see your nested stuff here like you do normally. So we're going to minimize that. Now, if I come into this Unicut file, I've got this test that I have ran, and I've got this .b. It's .ai, but it's a .b file is what it is. It's a B file, and you can see right here, B file. Now, what the heck is a B file? So if I grab something over here, I'm just going to grab this file here. So this is going to be a text file. So this is G code. So like, what your normal G code that most of you have probably heard about. And so this is a text file. So let's take a look at what they are. So if we take a look at the G code first, for those of you who are new, in a nutshell, a G code is a complex set of instructions, that Cabinet Vision sends out to the CNC, and it's like a very sophisticated, like, I don't know, like almost like a Google Maps kind of, if you want to really think about it super simple. Like it's detailed instructions of what the machine needs to do, where to go, all the different operations, and so you can see a line by line code in the G code. Now, so how does that differ from a B file? So if we go in here, we can see that a B file, for one, it looks a lot simpler. There's a whole lot less going on. And again, this is, we've only got 4 cabinets here, so there's not like a whole lot, anyway. But we can see here that we've got a bunch of lines going on. And then here in this G code, we have, a lot more lines, a lot different looking numbers. So what this is essentially, before we get into like what this is what the goal is, to get Cabinet Vision to spit out either a .b file, or sometimes there's like a .cut file. I just happen to be using a .b file, but I think a cut file does work as well. Whereas the G code is getting a line by line, set of instructions. We want Cabinet Vision, when it comes to these optimizing chop saws, to spit out, basically, it's in line with like an Excel spreadsheet. It's basically, we need certain fields populated in a certain way with certain information, and it's a lot simpler than G code. I think overall it's simpler. But it's just kind of knowing what, the trick is just like knowing like what information and what fields you need. And so what this essentially, what we're looking at here is, obviously we've got some information here, like BR stands for bottom rail. We have one, and I think this is the quantity. I can't remember. We'll take a look at that here in a second. We have the category of material. And we have a 1-1, which I can't remember what that is. This 1.5 is the width of the material. And then this is the length of material. So if, like in a face frame, you'd be like, this is 1.5 inch face frame by 27 long. And this 1.5 is what will change if you're doing like middle rails that are like 2 inches, or you've got a 3-inch right style. You'll see that number reflected here. Then you have these parentheses, commas and parentheses with nothing in them. And this is all important stuff, at least to have filled out correctly in order to get MilVision to work. And so we'll get into that here in a second. But essentially, this is the difference between a file that will go out to like a CNC router versus like a .b file, which is going to go out to something like an optimizing chop saw. Now, I can't tell you how similar this is to other machines, because other software, while it might have a similar format as far as like an Excel spreadsheet type of a layout, the fields might be filled in differently. There's a possibility for that. However, the information that is in here is probably going to be the same type of information that another software is going to need, if that makes any sense. Okay, so that was probably long-winded, and hopefully that was not super confusing. So let's take a look at kind of like the steps for me to get everything running. So step one, I had to buy the machine. So we bought this at a show in Atlanta a year or so ago, and along with the saw, we purchased a program called MilVision, and it's this map suite right here. So MilVision, From what I understand, it's a one-time purchase. I think it was like $3,000 or $4,000, and it's a one-time purchase, so it is not a subscription model, at least from when we bought it. And what MillVision is we'll just go ahead and open this up. MillVision is going to kind of be the bridge between Cabinet Vision and the saw. Okay, so here is MillVision. When I first loaded up, we have a couple things up here, but I'm only exclusively focused on MillVision here. I don't even have the purchase, any of these. So I'm only interested in MillVision. And when I go into MillVision, I have this, this portal right here. And so basically, trying to think of a good way to explain like kind of what this is. So this is like a staging area for your .b files, and then you get them kind of set up, and then you send them over to the saw. So this is kind of like the portal, between. It's kind of like the uploader. It gets the job in, and then it processes it in a way that MillVision can. The Unicut can read it. And so just to kind of again, I don't want to like deep dive too far into this specific one, because I'm not, this is not necessarily a tutorial on this machine or anything, but I do kind of want to kind of emphasize this .b file, because this hung me up for like a month. Just trying to figure out how to get it, what I needed, because I was told, hey, get Cabinet Vision to generate a .b file or a cut file. And I said, okay, cool. So then I reached out to Cabinet Vision. They're like, okay, well, what fields, what information do you want? And then I went back to, MillVision. They're like, well, Cabinet Vision should know how to fill it out. And it was just back and forth. And then, eventually we got it figured out, but it was not a straightforward process. And, I just kind of want to go into this just in case it does apply to other types of saws and different programs, and especially if you do end up getting something with MillVision, this will be like kind of like a huge help, in my opinion, because I didn't know any of this going in. So if I go into configuration, I have a couple things here, and we're not gonna worry about that. I'm just gonna go into edit, and we're gonna go take a look at this tab called fields. Okay, and so after Cabinet Vision integrated the .b file, the next question was, well, what do you want the .b file to spit out? So this file here had to be, or the ability to spit out the B file in Cabinet Vision was set up for me, I believe. So just to be clear, you will have to pay Cabinet Vision to set up the integration to spit out this .b file, and it's going to be like, I don't know, it was like $1,000 or $2,000, something like that. Not particularly cheap, but when they do set it up, I think that they structure it. I believe they send it out how you need it. They set it up how you need it to be sent out. And so what you do here in this MillVision is you have to set up your fields. And basically this is saying like, okay, how do you want MillVision to read this line by line? And so it's set up so column 1, so MillVision is going to look at column 1 and say, oh, this has to be, I'm being told that this is the description, so I'm going to read it as the description, and then it's going to look for the information, and it's going to say, okay, bottom rail. And then this is going to relay it to the printer, and so that's how the printer knows that, hey, this is the bottom rail, what to print. The second comment, okay, so comment is nothing, but it's required to be there because we have all these spaces that have to be filled. So the comment is simply this field, and it's saying ignore. Basically, it's populated, but it says skip over. Like, don't read this as anything. And then it goes to required, and Oh, what did I do there? Let's hit undo there. And it, and I don't fully understand everything, what this means. Because I kind of, I worked with the Milvision guy to set this up, but whatever this one is required, and I think that's I think it's the number of pieces in that assembly. I can't remember exactly, because I don't think, like, even though that they're similar sizes, I don't think it batches it in the B file. I think it itemizes everything out, even if there's multiples of the same size. So then we have species, and we can see here that this line, it's reading it as solid poplar. And so what that means is it's going to separate. Once it gets into Unicut, it's going to keep all the like type woods separate. So if I had like oak in some, it's going to say, okay, all the 3/4 poplars get grouped over here, all the 3/4 white oak, whatever, it's going to work to separate those. Again, we have comment, so right here, and then it goes to width, which I don't know. So there's 2 comments. So this, I don't know what this is. I know, so when we get down to width and length, I know that this is the width and the length right here. And I'm guessing, if I had to guess, this 1-1 and this 0 are not actually being read. So this probably has to do with the cabinet numbering inside of Cabinet Vision. So if I'm taking a look at this, because if we take a look at, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cabinets here. And I think that that's what that is. We have 1-1. So everything here, anything that's a 1-1 is associated in its own assembly. 1-2, that's the second assembly. 1-3, that's the third assembly. And then you get the picture, 1-4 assembly. So that doesn't actually need to be read because it's not being translated into a cut. So even though it's generated in the B file, we don't see it over here because we don't want Milvision to try to read that as anything. And then same for this 0. And then all of these comments have to be filled. That has to be populated in the B file. And so the reason why you have to account for it over here in the fields, every single one of them, is because you're basically telling Milvision, don't do anything with that. Skip over it. Ignore this field. Don't try to pull any information from it. And so, computers are dumb. They got to be told what to do. So you're basically saying ignore that. All right. So hopefully this, this makes sense. I know it's a lot, but essentially in a nutshell, this is the type of file that we are working towards. We want Cabinet Vision to spit out a correct B file, in my case, with all the correct information and all the correct fields. All right, once we have that, we can go to Milvision. And the way that it works is, let me minimize all this. And I'm going to open up this Ultra VNC viewer. Let's see if I can get it to connect here. I might have to check the IP address of this viewer to get it to connect. So basically what I'm doing here is this allows me to, I'll have to update this 1 second, but this is going to allow me to log into the machine side screen so I can see everything we're doing here. We can look in real time out on the machine, just as if we were sitting in front of the machine. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to pause the video. Let me go see if I can get the updated server port, and then I will be right back. Okay, I am back. So let's try this. So let's do, let's go 19. Yes. Okay, now we are in. So this is basically the screen outside of the machine out in the shop. And not only am I just looking at the screen, but I am physically controlling the screen. So if somebody was out there running the saw right now, I'm literally overriding their mouse, and it'll look like they'll think a ghost is taking over because they have no idea that I can do this. And so you'll yeah, you're actually controlling the you're actually controlling it out there. So if we go to MVP Pro, and we can see that, you know, this is how it's being batched material wise. And if we click here, 3/4 solid poplar, we can see batches right here. And these have names. Heritage Part 1, that's a job that I did. So in order to get, you know, we've got Cabinet Vision. We spit it out the B file to the Unicut folder. Now we want to get this B file into Map Suite so that we can shoot it out to the saw. And I'm gonna just put this guy here. So this guy represents the saw. So this is kind of like the order of, you know, moving the information to hit this saw. Okay, so inside of MillVision, we've got batch name. And we've got, let me just make, I'm just going to clear some of these batch files out. Okay, so let me clear these out too. So we've got a brand new blank slate. So right here in the batch name, let's go ahead and name this like tutorial test or something like that. All right, so now we're going to add file. And this is basically just saying we're not going to duplicate. It doesn't want to add duplicate of the same B file. So it's good to delete them out of there as they're done being processed. Now if I go to my desktop and my Unicut, if I go to test, I can drag in my B file here. So it's r09ai.b. It says unprocessed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this little slider, and it basically activates that job. We've got tut test, and then we're going to run this. And we should see it says KBC processing has been completed. And then now, if we hit refresh here, I see it. See, I deleted everything out, so that's why it's only showing up this 3/4 poplar, because I deleted all the other old jobs that were sitting out there. So now if I click this, I have my tutorial test, and it's showing me 1.5. Now, if I had, let's say I had, because right now, if we take a look at a cabinet, if you get rid of all the doors, right now the only frames I have are 1.5 inches. But if I made this something like 3 inches, something like that, and so we have 1.5 inches, and then one 3-inch piece. Under my tut test, I would have another category with 3 inches as a batch for all of those parts. So that, you know, that's how that works. And so the fact that it is showing up here inside of the saw is what we want. And so then to get it running, I hit import. And then under my fixed length, this is where I can see how MillVision is going to optimize it. Now, and it's going to tell me, you know, once I hit start, I'm not actually out there at the machine, but it's going to say, okay, we need like 5 sticks of 95-inch long pieces. Start throwing them in there. And once you hit start, it'll start cutting them and printing them, and it'll start checking them off as it optimizes it. So it's not going to cut in a list order. It's going to cut based on how it optimizes, and then it's going to start highlighting them off based on how it gets the cut. And the reason it does that is because, let's say I have a short little piece and I just throw it in there and hit start, it's going to say, well, it's going to measure that piece and then say, well, based on the size that you've given me, let me go ahead and cut this little piece and do it. So it's looking in real time at the size of the pieces that you're putting in there, and then it's weighing that up against the remaining cuts in the list to get the best cuts. All right, so hopefully that is kind of makes sense a little bit. So just to recap, we have, Cabinet Vision. We want to spit out the B file. We want that B file to go into Map Suite, into MillVision. So we have to set up MillVision in a way to properly read that B file. And then MillVision gets it ready, and then we can spit a batch out to the actual saw itself. I know that's probably super confusing. But before we wrap things up, let's go ahead and take a look at the Cabinet Vision side in what is going to be required on the Cabinet Vision side. And then after we talk about this, I want to just kind of give you a couple pointers or tips that I've learned, kind of some of the mistakes I made, and then we'll wrap this video up. But in a nutshell, and this is just to be aware of, just in general, it seems like since we've started using Cabinet Vision, several years ago, there's always these surprise costs that you kind of get hit with. And, in regards to this unit cut, you're going to purchase the machine. That's going to cost money. You're going to purchase, then they say, well, you need MillVision, that's going to cost you money. And then you buy this and you call Cabinet Vision and you're like, hey, I got this new machine. I heard Cabinet Vision will work with it. So help me get set up. And they're going to be like, no problem. And where do I send you the quote for how much it's going to cost? And you're going to be like, what? It's $2,500 or whatever, $2,000. And that's just a reality. That's just the reality of it. But it's good to be aware that a lot of these little things that I'm talking about are unfortunately going to cost a little bit of money to set up. So, if you're using Cabinet Vision as a host program, so just keep that in mind. But okay, so if we take a look at machine here, we're inside the screen to machine center. Inside the machine, we have under our catalog of machines, I've got a few machines here, so we can see that the Unicut chop saw is here. And so this is where, this NC link. So this is what Cabinet Vision is going to need to do for you, or somebody like my friend Clayton McMasters at cvmasters.net, who used to work with Cabinet Vision. He's actually the one who got me set up. When he was working at Cabinet Vision, he helped me a lot. Now he's got his own. But you're going to have to turn to, either Cabinet Vision or someone that's, close to Cabinet Vision to acquire. I don't know exactly how the integration process works. If it's is it a line of code? Is it something that you have to, because they charge for it, I'm not able to see what exactly is happening. And it could be like a post processor or something that, is physically being brought into Cabinet Vision to unlock it, or whatever the process is. But it's not something that you're going to be able to just do on your own just because you bought the machine. You will have to reach out to Cabinet Vision. But anyway, under this machine catalog, this output directory, it's no different than, my ONSRUDs for, spitting out my G code. This is going to be where you want it to go. All I did was I made a file on my desktop called Unicut, and then I went into my machine. You go to your chop saw, and I search for it in the browse history folder, click OK, and then it will populate it here. And then it's good to just put this little backslash there on the end so it saves it, so it automatically creates a new folder. Otherwise it'll be like this, and it'll just spit it out into the main folder and get confusing. So I like to have it, have subfolders in there. But essentially this is the output. This is what they're going to have to integrate. And then from there, either they should do it, or if, you forget or they forget, once it's integrated and they get the integration set up, you have to go into, I believe it's materials. Let's see if we can find it. So basically under CNC, we have to turn it to optimize, to where it optimizes it out. And board stock, maybe it's under part frame. Okay, yes. Okay, so this is what we want to do. So if for some reason you have someone help you, they get it integrated, they get it set up, you're opening a new job, you're creating a new job, and for whatever reason you are just not able to get those parts to show up in the Screen to Machine Center, you come over here to parts, and under your parts, you're looking for your, whether it's your doors, your let's see here, assembly. So what we want to do is it's going to be like the face, so the frame. So under assembly, under face, under frame, you're going to see right over here, RS, right style, LS, left style, top rail, bottom rail, mullion, mid rail, and board. And so all of these, if ever you see these in Screen to Machine, they're associated with your face frame. And so what you need to do is you need to come over here to CNC, and you need to check this on. I don't have board checked on because I use that as when I'm building things. It's just, but all these other things need to be checked on here at the CNC, and then optimize here. So make sure. So if you're not seeing that, even if you're updating your job for whatever part it is, it does not matter. If you want, like, say, your door panel to show up, that's how you would do that. If you want, let's see, any of your parts, if you're setting up cabinet vision for the first time and you're not seeing, like, maybe your floors or your bottoms aren't showing up, you got to go in and make sure they're checked on. Whatever you want checked up, whatever you want sent out to Screen to Machine needs to be checked here. And if it's not, it's not showing up. And then if it's not, and you want it, so turn it on, go back into your job, do a refresh of the job. And then you should go back into Screen to Machine and you should see it. So, hopefully this wasn't a helter-skelter video. If it was, I really wasn't meaning it to be. And it hopefully, it kind of gives you guys, an idea if you're wanting to kind of implement machines like that, what to expect. Because here's the deal. I know two personal shops, I'm not going to name them, where they bought these machines, and they're using a manual. They're not using them with MillVision because it was very complicated for me to get it started, to get it set up. Now that I know what I'm doing, I could bring in another machine like this and have it going really quickly. But for some reason, the initial, figuring it out was a little confusing. But that being said, it really defeats the purpose of those kind of machines. Like, you really need to have them to where where it's integrated to some sort of software like Cabinet Vision, so that way, you're not wasting time setting up lists in the computer by hand, because if that's the case, you can cut it faster on a regular chop saw. So, and then another thing that I want to say, if any of you are specifically looking at MillVision as a program specifically, when you go to get it set up, you want to have at least two really reliable computers. And by reliable, I mean computers that you don't think are going to crap out on you like anytime soon. You're also going to want to have relatively good internet and landline cables. The reason for that is Milvision, once you buy it, even though it's a flat rate, they're going to ask you which computer do you want to install a database on. And Milvision requires a database to run, and it's locally hosted on a machine that you own. All right. Sounds simple, and it is simple. And then once you have a computer that has your database, you can have like 3 or 4 other computers all hooked to it, and you can get seats for it. So multiple people can be working and using Milvision. Once that database is locked on your computer, it's going to cost you a couple grand to move that. If for some reason you need it on a new computer, or you bought a new computer and you want to move that. So if you are thinking about getting Milvision, and if you are debating about getting a new computer, if you don't have one, that is the time to get a new desktop tower computer, not a laptop. You can get a laptop if you want to run a seat off it, but my advice, I'm a computer guy. If you're going to do it, get a reliable desktop computer, preferably something that you either build or have built, or that you can kind of work on and upgrade if you need to. That's what I did for mine. They're not like super fancy or anything, but I just know that I can go in and tinker with them if I need to, for longevity's sake, because it is, it's not going to be free if you want to move that. So just keep that in mind. Something I didn't know, kind of ran into that situation, so that's why I'm throwing it out there for you guys. So anyway, I will wrap this video up there, up here. And anyway, thanks for watching. Hopefully, you found this somewhat helpful, just kind of what you're going to need to think about if you want to integrate anything like that. If you have any questions, please, let me know. For full disclosure, I really do like the Unicut saw we have now, and now that we're past through some of the rocky roads initially, I'm very happy with it, and it's been working really good for me, just in case anyone is interested. But anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you're having a great day wherever you are, and I'll see you guys in the next video.